On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, why I don't use music services, scuba diving with Catfish, we have a new Scar 20, and the most perfect mugshot. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Kraken Marky, and this is episode 295 of the John1911 Podcast. It's about 10 o'clock on Thursday night, March 23rd, Eastern Standard Time, my time zone. And I see Kraken has got a fire going in the background, so I can't yell at him about audio discipline if it's a fire.
This is
right?
true. I've actually got a bunch of red oak I'm trying tonight, and it seems to be a little more crackly and more poppier than some of my other wood, but boy, it burns hot.
I bet it does. That you know, what's is like a high BTU number? Is that what they would
Yeah,
call that?
I don't know what the numbers are on it. I just know the harder, denser woods burn hotter than, like a softer wood. I just know.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you, what burns hotter than others, other than like mulberry and the hedge burns just hotter than heck. But this is putting off a lot of heat tonight.
Yeah. We burn so much stuff at the John1911 range that occasionally, like we'll burn some trees, just not I don't want to do too much, but if something's in the way. So, and I like because I'm still trying to burn all these pallets and stuff that we used to build all this infrastructure from 5 years ago. And you throw in some real wood in there where the pallets burn up, in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, they're burned down to nothing. Where the real wood, that thing's burning for hours. It's like damn, it's like if I plan on having to burn anything with real wood in it, that's what I call it. I'm going to be there all night babysitting
Well, yeah,
that fire.
that's when you bring a thermos of coffee and some hot dogs and marshmallows and a stool, and you get a bunch of people together and tell fish stories and watch wood burn.
Well, the rule with the John1911 range is generally, it's unless we're shooting, it's pretty hard to round people up, because people don't want to be out there to put in any work. So, like they're afraid they're gonna be like, "Hey, you gonna be burning? Like, you want to come and hang out?" They'd be like, "Am I gonna have to cut anything?" It's like, you can't find them with a search warrant.
You mean
So
people want to
that's just
show up
kind of
and
how it
shoot,
is.
but not put
I
any
get
sweat
it.
equity into keeping the range up?
Well, you know what? Where I used to work, they had a big range, and my old boss, they were building their facility. Of course, they built that thing 25, 30, almost 30, well, 30 years ago, and he's like, there were some instructors there that when I was there that had been there since the beginning, and he was like, for work party days, he's like, you couldn't find any of these guys. He said they all just, something's come up, I got to go do some extra time at the PD, or I got my wife's I got to go babysit the kids or something. It's like, yeah, and I get it. What's the meme I put up? We don't do this because it's easy. We do this because we thought it would be easy, and ultimately it's on me. So. That's kind of where it's at. Hey, before I forget, I want to tell you something. I was sitting here waiting for you. I was just on Instagram, and I was looking at a video of a engine with full exhaust on it, but it's on a test stand, and they're throttling this thing at however RPMs it was. I doubt this thing goes to 8. It could be. I don't know. It was a Renault engine. Is it Renault or Renault?
I've heard it
How do you say
pronounced
that?
both ways. So, it's kind of the Sabot-Sabo argument with me. I think as long as you know what a guy's talking about, I don't get too caught up on the semantics of it.
In the business world, I've always heard it pronounced Renault, but I don't know. I don't know. But I was looking at this thing, and this thing's screaming. Like, it's just cool watching it. Like, it's, it thing is, but you're like, you don't see any, you really appreciate how tight these engines are. Like, nothing's leaking out of it. But like, even above, I guess, I guess it's the I have to look. But like it's getting so hot, it's making a layer of like it's vaping above the motor
Hmm.
at the top of the motor, like because the heat's coming out of it, and you know when it's being throttled,
Yeah.
it vapes externally just because the heat coming off can't coming is like it just really because you know you can hear because it's a race engine, it's like some from F1 car or something, and you know it sounds like you know those cars from you know F1 really high revving whatever engines, but I've never seen one stationary. I've seen a car, you know, they scream and they're going by, and you know that sound. But I'm just, you know, seeing one on a test stand, like up close, I can read the block. Renault. It was just so fascinating to me. But you know, but most people don't realize. See, Kraken races cars. So what I'm describing to him right now is boring. It's like he's like, yeah, whatever. He's like, yeah, whatever, whatever, noob, whatever, you know, poser, new guy, whatever. It's like, yeah, I get it, I know. I just was, you know, just looking at, you know,
Yep.
Renault. So, um, I'd send it to you, but you can't see a thing
No, that's
on
just something I
Instagram.
never really got into. I
So,
just never got into the whole Instagram thing.
yeah, we did it for obviously because of the
Yeah.
armory and social media. So, I'll tell you what, I saw you have yeah, your iPhone. You have iPhone. Do you ever have music
I don't
on
do
your
the Apple
iPhone?
Music. I've just got a Sirius XM subscription, so I run the Sirius app.
I've had that. Like I've had it in some of my vehicles, and then you know it's like I don't even ever do this anymore. I just listen to stuff off my phone and try. Oh my God, trying to quit that. I mean, it's like a cult. Like they're just constant. Like it probably took a year to get rid of them. And anyway, so you mentioned Apple Music, and the reason I'm bringing it up is there was a story in the news. A bunch of people they got all pissed off because they let me see if I can find it here. They I guess they're in is it see it's Spotify. They you know these people they pay for Spotify, and I guess it's probably a lot of Indians, but not 100%. A bunch of what they call
Hmm.
it Bollywood music, like music from either the movies or the genre, or maybe the most popular actors, or maybe it's the movie soundtracks. But it's all this Bollywood music. Well, there's apparently a big pissing match going on between Spotify and you know, whomever in India or the groups in India, and they're negotiating, you know, licensing this music for Spotify. Well, Spotify pulled all the music off. So all these people they pay for Spotify and they listen to this music and they're like, it was here yesterday, it was here last week, where the hell is it? And they've discovered that it's, you know, they're fighting and maybe it'll never come back. And, you know, like I noticed like Apple Music when it they signed me up for something like oh do Apple Music, and I realized one thing I didn't like about it was you know if you switch to Apple Music all the music immediately went off my phone and everything went to the
Hmm.
cloud, and it was like whoa, like I travel, like I fly, you know, I go places there's no internet. It's like I can't I mean I can't have I mean if I download something and I want it to be on my device, like if I download stuff on the iPad or documents, you know, things I'm working on, like it's got to be on the iPad. It can't just like, you know, revert back to the cloud. Like you can download it, it'll just revert back to the cloud. And it's like, I canceled all that stuff. Like if there's something I want, I buy it. You know, I pay the 199 or even 399 for a song. It's because it's on my phone. You know, I have it, you know, and it was just it kind of reinforced a lot of my problems with these services because you don't really have it on your phone, and if you don't have service, you don't have access to certain things. You know, it's like what the hell?
Yeah.
You don't even have music on your
I kind
phone
of
or
do the
whatever you
same
would want to
thing with
have.
the
So,
Amazon Prime Music, and I pay the extra. It's like $8 a month, and download the music. And then as long as I play a song for like 15 seconds once a month while I'm connected to Wi-Fi or using my cell data, Then it sends a code to the phone that everything I've downloaded is still playable offline, for lack of a better way to put it. So then when I fly and I have to put my phone in
Okay.
airplane mode, I can still access all the songs I've downloaded from Amazon Prime, but I run into the same problem. I might have 20 songs by AC/DC on Tuesday, get on an airplane Wednesday, and go hit my AC/DC library, and 10 of the songs are just gone. For no reason. They just, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a licensing issue or what, but in my Amazon library, there's always stuff that's coming and going, or I have to re-download, or so unless I'm flying, I don't mess with it a lot. I just use the Sirius app and bounce from channel to channel.
Yeah. I used to, again, I used to use the Sirius, but between, like stuff I can pull through my phone, like podcasts, or if I need to listen to some news or something, like like the Sirius is all the standard stuff. I just I was paying for it, was never using it. I wouldn't even use it in the car. Like it's in all these vehicles, and I'm like, this is just a waste. Because I always Bluetooth. I will either Bluetooth or hardwire connect my phone into a vehicle, to just do whatever it is I'm doing. So yeah, I just these services. I guess it's one of the downsides a lot of people don't realize. And I was, it just reminded me of just kind of like, yeah, I understand everything has to be software as a service. They want that monthly fee. And, it's like, well, if you download enough music a year, it's cheaper to do the service, but, gosh darn it,
Yeah.
I own it. Like I mean, I'm in the ecosystem. Like if I switch out of Apple, I'd be screwed, but I'm so deep into the Apple system. I mean, they have to do something pretty bad
I was
to,
having to go to
make me
Tennessee a
leave.
lot on business. So, from my house to where I was going, that was about an 11-hour drive. So the Sirius made sense for me because, you run out of a good station halfway across Missouri. Then you got to monkey around and try and figure out another good station that plays music you like. And I thought, they had an introductory, it was like $50 for a year. And then it reverted to normal rate. So I just set a reminder for 11 months and 2 weeks on my phone and went
Oh, they hate you.
went to
They
cancel, and
hate
they went,
you.
wait, we've got a good deal. We don't want to lose you. You've been a good customer, for 2 years now, and because I do the same thing every year, and so I think it cost me another $5
Mm.
this year. So you just call them up and tell them, hey, I'm going to cancel, and you get a good deal, and then you say, no, I think I'm still done. That's a little too much. So then you wind up with, I think I'm at like $58 a year now. So we're,
Oh God, I remember trying to cancel some of these services. They was to the point that, well, we'll just give you. How about we just give you like 9 months for free? You're such a good customer. I'm like, no, I don't use it, and I just don't want to. I want to shut this off. So anyway, I finally get him to shut it off. And it takes forever to get him on the phone, go through the process. And what happened was, so then a couple months later, I'd get junk mail from him, and it'd be a check, and it'd be like, here's a check for you that you can use for to apply to your Cirrus account or whatever. Like they were literally sending checks. Like if I cash this fucking check, it's all of a sudden that shit's all back on, and this is like, oh
yeah,
hell
they're pretty
no.
sneaky about
So
how they do some of that stuff.
you
That's for
know.
sure.
I mean, the check, I mean, it's like, look, it's 2023. It's like, do people really? I mean, look, I'm not like Jennifer Flowers, where like take a 20 bill and drag it through a trailer park. Bill Clinton seduced me. That's
Yeah.
that's the old James Carville joke. So, um, hey, I'll tell you what, I want to ask you, but since you're a race car driver, I want to ask you a question. This came out in the business stuff today. Um, Ford, I'm air quotes here, voluntarily, when they announce their quarterly and annual profits, they're breaking it
Hmm.
up by division, you know, so you can see. SUV versus truck, fleet vehicle, and whatever. So they're breaking it up as opposed to just Ford, and they made 10 billion profit, I guess, last year, but they lost 2 billion on EVs. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They're just voluntarily breaking it up so they can show they lost 2 billion on electric vehicles. And I'm thinking, there's some industrial investors, like large cap investors that they own Ford stock, and they're like, motherfucker, we
Mhm.
want to see the numbers. Like, what's going on here? Is this shit working or not? And I was like, and they lost $2 billion on electric vehicles last year. And last year was their Mustang SUV that they had it, and their Ford Lightning truck that doesn't apparently pull anything. But everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Meta loses a shit ton of money on the multiverse or metaverse or what fake verse, and it's like, I mean, it looks like a plane on fire going into the side of the mountain. But I'm just saying, like, I'm like, wait a minute, what business can lose $2 billion? And it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
there's so
okay.
much government mandate and government programming involved with that. I think probably what the incentive to show that loss is to try and make a case to at least extend out time limits to when some of this stuff is going to try and become mandatory. Uh, it's gotten so bad that even NASCAR has scheduled like one EV race. Uh, I think it's in the Xfinity series, and I believe it's for next year.
Oh God.
Uh,
I didn't even think about what
yeah,
NASCAR has to go
and I mean
EV.
we're all sitting around trying to scratch our head and go, how is this going to
Oh,
work? Because at 60 mile an hour, what the best technology is supposed to be 250 miles on a charge, roughly. Uh,
they're
they're
gonna
going to
have
have
to
to do
hot swap the
something, and
batteries.
then
Well,
just
you
the
can't.
engineering of it. Uh, because race cars are really weight sensitive, and where you place the weight, where are they going to put all these batteries? Now, what's going to happen if you get into a crash and you've got lithium batteries on fire? Uh,
You can't. Have
yeah,
you heard about the fires? Like whenever a Tesla, have you heard about when a
yeah, it's pretty
Tesla
much back
catches
up
on
3 blocks
fire?
and, pop the top on a Pepsi and watch it burn because there's really not much you can do.
They basically, this one fire department was like, I think they used like I mean, it was some crazy number of gallons of water to try to put out this fire, and it basically never went out until it just was all burned up. Like this thing, it was burned from front to back. And it was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, I think. I could, maybe it's 50. Like, the amount of water they use for a car, like, it doesn't typically, like, I've been around car fires, pretty easy to
Yeah,
put out. They really are, unless, I mean, just watch out when the tires pop. But, I mean, like, I just, like, I didn't even think
yeah,
about,
and
like,
water and
NASCAR.
lithium batteries don't mix.
And
That's I also do a lot of fishing, a lot of tournament fishing. So one of the big things right now is moving to lithium batteries for our boats. And there's that. The technology's gotten there to where we don't really have to worry about them blowing up because they got a little wet being in a boat. But you have your old school guys that aren't going to spend $700 on a battery in the first place. But that's always their biggest argument. Well, when it gets a little wet in the water and your boat blows up, don't come calling me. Well, on a racetrack, that could become a real problem. You get a couple of cars get together and some of the batteries catch on fire. They're going to have that special chemical to put those out, and those fires burn so hot, you can actually, I mean, there's some question as to whether the racing surface can withstand it.
yeah. Like, so wait a minute, they're doing electric
Well, the battery
gas
systems,
boats
we run so
now?
many lights and electronics and stuff. It's nothing to have, three, four,
Oh,
5 Group 31 batteries, one to crank the motor, one to run all your electronics, anywhere from 12 to 36 volt trolling motors. Well, with a regular lead acid battery, at 60, 70 pounds of crack, and the lithium batteries at half that with, the ones I run right now, they have an 11-year warranty, and you can discharge them down to basically zero. Where with a regular, say, an AGM battery, you get down to about 50%, you start losing performance.
yeah, yeah. Lithium's way better. I mean, like, I got I mean, I fished. I've taken fly fishing classes, and I fished for bluegill, like just a worm on a hook when I was a kid. But like you see all this equipment, I get this image that like you guys are out there with all this gear and sonar and all this stuff, and the fish are under the water, and like the camera cuts to them, and they look like the dudes in Das Boot, like trying to avoid the destroyers above them. Boo, boo, all this stuff. They're
All the
like, oh my
fish are
god, the
running
bass boats are
silent.
back. Yeah, the fish are like
And then
quiet.
and then one fish sneezes and
Yeah,
everybody
I mean,
goes, "Thanks, Carl."
yeah, and it's just like, it's like anything. It's fun until you take it seriously, and it's still fun, but it's a lot of work, and you know, that's why, like shotgun sports, I just, oh, we're gonna go shoot, go shoot shit in the air today. I just have the same shotgun. I'm like, maybe I'll try side by side one day, but it's like. I don't want to take shotgun sports as seriously as I take handgun, precision rifle, and
Hmm.
growing more and more an attack rifle. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like a job. Um, and it's just like I just want to go out there and shoot and have fun. Like I just, throw the cast the line and you know something bites on my like set, and the guide goes set, and I just I pull the string and reel it in, and guy comes over, he's like, let me take it off. I'm like, let me try. It's just fun. I don't, and some of that's too much. Like, oh, there was the thing. You weren't on staff. I think we talked about it, but they busted that guy. They busted those
The
guys.
walleye guys.
Maybe you weren't on staff. Remember the
Yep.
guys the putting the weights in the fish? It's like, dude, like you're at the point that you're cheating on a fishing tournament. And it's like, come on, like
That's
figure your
actually
life
been going
out.
on for quite a
Come
long
on.
time. And it's human nature. You put two guys together competing for, I don't care if it's a green M&M. At some point, one of them will try and figure out a way around the rules for advantage. It's just human nature. So I've seen everything from catching fish ahead of time and sinking them in baskets and then going and fetching them during a tournament. The fish weight trick has been around for a while. These guys were smart about it, though. They took other fish fillets and wrapped the weights up in fish fillets and shoved them down their throat. So when they jiggled the fish around and put them on the scale, the weights didn't rattle together and didn't make noise. That's how advanced the cheating scheme had gotten.
They
Yeah, you
jiggle
pick
the
fish up, and
fish.
you put it in the scale, and well, if you got 3 or 4 big chunks of lead in there, just picking the fish up and handling the fish, weighing it in and such, they could hear the weights rattling around in the fish's stomach. So they wrapped all the
Oh, that's why. Go ahead.
that's why they wrapped the
Go
weights
ahead.
up in other fish fillets and shoved them down. So it was basically like they were packaging them up so they wouldn't clank against each other.
Okay, because I remember when I saw the video, we published it, and like they're cutting the fish and they're pulling out fillets, and I was like, okay, like I could see the big lead balls. I didn't know, like, okay, and they're putting fillets in there.
Yep,
I didn't realize that's what it was. It was really to
yep.
mask the
Keep them
balls.
from clanking together, so to tip people off, when they were just handling the fish. And the bad part was is they'd been doing it forever, but even without adding any weights to the fish at all, I mean, they had plenty of weight to win the tournament and win the series championship for the year. And they were so stupid in how they did it. Uh, they had a fish that, let's say it would have weighed 4 pounds, uh, you know, at max. At 4 pounds, you're topped out. They had
Mm-hmm.
enough weight shoved in this thing to weigh like 6.5 pounds. Yeah, I mean, utterly
It's
ridiculous.
like this fish is so heavy. It's not about checking it for weight. You're going to have to drug test it to
Yeah,
see if it's on the juice. You're like, what the fuck? Come on, USADA's coming
this
in
is
like
this
doing
is
a
like the
blood draw on the fish.
1972 East German walleye.
There you
You got to
go.
be kind of old to get
Oh
that
my
one.
God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Some of these gym. Hey, look, dude. I worked out at it. I was traveling. I was working, and I was in Atlantic City, which is all just sounds really bad, and it was bad. We'll just say it was bad, and I had to find a gym to work out, and I went into this gym in New Jersey. And normally like back in the day, I'm like in the upper half of like, dudes in the gym. Like I mean not I'm not like at the top, but I'm definitely like, if like there's a middle, like there's a 50% point, I'm always in the upper half, not the lower half. This gym, dude, I was in the lower half and there were chicks fucking blowing me out. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like it was crazy amount of juice flowing around this gym. Dudes walking around like they look like they walked off the cover of these magazines. You're like, what in God's name am I looking at here?
Yeah, I need to go
It was
back to my
out of
Planet
control.
Fitness in
I
Ohio where I fit in better.
Yeah. Oh, I don't go there, but hey, do you know who I can't say his name. I think he's a mumble rapper. And I know I'm asking Kraken, who races cars and bass fishes, who the mumble rapper, I think it's 6ix9ine or I think whatever his name is. He's got all these tattoos he's a mumble rapper. He's got all these tattoos all over his face and his hair is like crazy colors, but it
I was
doesn't
going to
really
say
narrow it
that.
down.
But
It's
point of
it's like that's
correction,
not
I am
helping.
not refined
Uh,
enough to be a bass fisherman. I fish for catfish.
oh Lord,
So my
there's
fish
a
eat your
difference.
fish. Well, yeah, you'll fish your entire life to catch an
Okay.
8, 9, 10 pound bass. I've used 8 pound carp for bait. When I go fishing, I'm looking for fish that weigh 60 to 100 pounds.
I've look because we got the Ohio River here. I've heard stories. Like there's always like a rumor, like there's these giant catfish in some of these areas, and like if you got into the wrong place, you know, like a 12-year-old boy may not come back up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like
Well,
really,
my
oh,
favorite is
I
well,
don't
I
know.
know I've got a neighbor's uncle's brother's cousin that was a scuba diver, and they were doing work on the dam. And he went down and saw a catfish bigger than
It's
Volkswagens that could eat a person,
you know
and he
what? I've
never ever
heard
went.
this
He never dove
story.
again.
Dude, literally,
Yep,
scuba diver dam because there's dams here
yep.
bigger than a Volkswagen. Literally, I've heard
I've
that
fished all
story.
over your neck of the woods. Any place there are big catfish, I've fished, and for the most part. And you hear that story everywhere you go. Every old timer out there sitting there drinking coffee is telling, and it's always, they can never tell you a name. It's always a brother's, uncle's, cousin's, neighbor. And it's so big they could eat a man, and he never dove again. Uh, I've fished the Ohio River, and I've fished the Tennessee River, and I've actually fished the face of the dam. And, I've seen 100-pound catfish. That's the world record blue catfish, which is the biggest catfish in North America is I think it's at like 126 right now, which is a huge fish. But unless you're a 6-pound
Wow.
toddler, you're not going to get eaten by this fish. But everywhere you go, and as a scuba diver, I hear that story too. I think every scuba's
Oh, that's right. You're a
I've
scuba
declared a few
diver.
stupid things.
I mean, you're like like uh, you're like a walking, talking Coors commercial or the Real American Hero. Like, I mean, you drive a tractor, you competitively fish, you scuba dive, you race cars, and I'm not kidding. I've seen Kraken's car. I've seen Kraken's, and we joke because I think he should have a different call sign. They should have a different name, but we won't let me do it. So he's Kraken, and that's fine. But like it's like I don't know. Like the only thing you need is I don't know. Do you drive a jacked up pick? Do you have drive a pickup truck that's like 4 feet jacked
No,
in the air?
actually, I drive a great big old Ford Expedition though, so that's yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
those are nice.
yeah,
That's what that's what Doc had.
but I've had the big trucks, so I guess I can't say anything there. But I kind of outgrew that phase.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I
I
like
mean,
my
we,
comfort, my
I
heated and
mean,
cooled
there.
seats now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I was telling somebody at Lexus today. I'm like, if y'all make a big truck like this Tundra, I'd buy it. They go, well, then you couldn't use it like a truck. And I looked at the guy and I was like, oh yes, I would. It's like, yeah, it's like, dude, it's a Lexus. I didn't say this, but like, it's a Lexus, not a Maybach. Come on, like, give me a break, you know. But they weren't gonna bite on that, so you know. Hey, I gotta ask you something real quick. So, and I'm gonna reference something that we talked about off pod that we are not going to talk about on pod, but I've been looking more because of that blow up looking more
Hmm.
at ballast boxes for the tractor to use for tool carrying. And I found a guy on YouTube today, and I think it's a category 2 ballast box, but I'm not certain. But what he did is he took a ballast box and he filled it up with cement permanently, but then he mounted all this stuff to it to carry tools, with the ballast box. Like he's got a chainsaw, like a thing to put the
Hmm.
chainsaw bar vertically, like the chainsaw carriers that people do, and the ox thing, all the turn logs and all this other kind of stuff. And have you done any of that kind of stuff? Do you have a
I
ballast
don't.
box? Have you done that?
Mostly because I've got a 7-foot blade on the back, and I've never really had a problem with getting the back end in the air. Uh, when I'm hauling logs big enough to get the back end in the air, then I just wind up. I've got to cut them up a little smaller. A ballast box to me, we don't see them around here because pretty much every tractor around here's got some type of implement on the back of it. So we're using our 3 points,
Yeah,
whether it's a brush hog or discs or box blade. We're always hauling something around because it's just easier to haul it around than to keep unhooking it until we got to change out implements. Uh, if I was having to haul a
yeah.
lot of stuff like that around, to be honest, what I wind up doing the most of is put it in the because I've got a a box on the front of my tractor, a scoop, and I just put everything in
Hmm.
there, and then wherever I'm going to go work, I just jump out of the tractor, unload it, cut whatever, and haul whatever I need away, and then if I have to come back, I come back and just throw everything in there. But if I was going to do it, what I would probably do is I'd find a local blacksmith and tell them what you want to do and what you need to carry, and tell them you got a 3-point hitch, and turn them loose with a couple $100 in steel and welder, and you can probably get something made that'll work even better than something you can buy off of, something you've seen off YouTube. Because a lot of that stuff you see on YouTube, and that's simply somebody got in their garage and fixed a problem they were having, and somebody went, "Hey, make me one," and pretty soon they're making them, and selling them for 5 times what it costs to make them.
Yeah, the big problem we've had, and we didn't, I mean, we didn't set out to get in this, is, you know, like the products that are made to do this, to be honest, they're just they're too lightweight. They're on small tractors. They're category one. They're kind of flimsy. I mean, they don't think they are, but they are. And, they take, and for how big they are, they're not strong. And, you know, I mean, like we could fold one of these things and not even know that it's
Yeah.
happening unless we're looking back there. Whereas, like I don't really need a ballast box for ballast. I typically, like in the summer, I've got the bush hog on the back of the tractor, the 8 foot, and you know I've been using the bucket to carry tools around, but then it limits me on what I can do. Like what I would like to do is I'd like to be able to use pallet forks in the front, have tools in the back, and so then I can lift and cut as if I need to. If I need to get out and do something, I got the tools, pry bars, and I don't have to like unload and reload because I'm moving around the property because I'm not logging. I'm not working in an area stacking logs and bringing in firewood.
Yeah.
I'm trying to open up trails. And so if I can just go and move, be like, oh, let me just move this tree out of the way or move this out of the way, just keep moving. You know what I mean? Because I'm mobile. And so, and I saw these ballast boxes, and I'm like, that's pretty good. But they seem to be not common, at least around here. I really need a Category 2 box, which is less common because I want more storage, and I don't want to have to use the bushings and all that. I just want to be able to pick it up and go. And I've got such a big tractor. It's like, like I mean, I can get more back there with a bigger box. So I'm looking and exploring and just kind of seeing what's out there, and you know, not trying to get berated into spending $2,700 on something. It's like,
Oh God,
how,
if we lived closer, I could
so,
build you one in an afternoon. That you could run trees over with and not hurt it, and just hook it to your 3-point and drop it on the ground, pull 3 pins, and drive away when you're done. For that matter. But I would bet there's somebody local, with just a local blacksmith, metalworking shop that, for probably $300, $400, can come up with something better than anything you could buy with what I'm envisioning that you're talking about anyway.
yeah, I don't know what I'm looking for yet. I want to be able to get a big chainsaw in it, pry bar, axe, wedges, gas, extra chains, some tools, um, a set of clippers, um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like for cutting vines, a machete, um, that's that kind of stuff. So like right now, like I can just barely get a chainsaw in
Yeah.
the cab. So it is what it is. I mean, it's a new project. It just kind of came up. Like I didn't really know what a ballast box was. People say get a ballast box. I'm like, I don't know what that even is. Like I don't want to have this big old weight on the back of my tractor. What's that for? Actually, fun fact: I lifted the back wheel, one of the back wheels on the tractor this past weekend, trying to open up a new area. I've never had the tire come up, but I was kind of, the front of the tractor was pointed down in like this low spot. It's real muddy, and I was trying to get with the pallet forks to try to lift these trees up. And I got under. I thought I was under one tree, and it turns out I was under two. And the second one was way bigger, and it was so I didn't realize, what I had hooked onto, and the freaking, you know, and I can say this in a tractor, the driver's to the well, it's not driver. I guess with driver's side rear, but driver's side would be the right side. So the right rear tire was coming up in the air, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's never happened before." A giant ass tractor. It's like, okay, well, let's hold on, back up. Oh, there's more down there. Kind of thread the needle and lift it up and do whatever. So I'm actually getting into some new
So on
areas,
a scale of 1 to
and
10, what was the
trying to get some.
pucker factor?
Oh, it wasn't anything that bothered me. The tractor's so big and stable. It was like, oh, the back end's up. It's like, I mean, it's not, I mean, not that I can't flip that tractor. You can flip anything, but, you got to be pretty retarded to, to flip this and like keep going where you're like, I mean, like you'd have to, you're like your equilibrium would have to be so fucked up. I mean, you would be side. I mean, if you didn't realize you were
Yeah.
sideways, like I mean, there's just no way. I mean, I'm not going to say there's no way,
The
but
first time I did it, our
I mean,
soil type here is it's called low hill soil. So it's
yeah,
kind of a wet, sandy. It's always really, really soft. You can go 3 months without rain, and it'll feel like you're walking across wet, sandy dirt. Yeah. So the first
really,
time I was out back, and I wasn't even trying to lift anything. I was just basically making like a 3 point turn. So the right front kind of got up on a little bit, probably 2 foot up on the side hill, but that ground was soft enough that the left front just sunk right down in, and that old right rear came up probably 4 foot up in the air, and I was not expecting that. So I did everything that you shouldn't do, which was immediately get off the gas and step on the brakes. I was just kind of hanging there with this. What the heck do I do? And how do I get out of it without flipping it the rest of the way over? Because she was on her way over. And
and this is your
yeah,
this is
yeah,
your cab's tractor, right?
my coyote.
Your
My
Coyote.
cousin walks up and he says, "What are you doing
Ooh,
with your ass end hanging up in the air?" And I said, "I don't know what to do from here." And he's like, "Just lower your bucket." So I just dropped the bucket, and that pushed the right rear back down and just backed up out of there. And after that, whenever I get it up in the air, I just drop the bucket and it stabilizes back out. And I go, "Well, probably shouldn't have done that."
yeah, that's what I did. I just dropped I
Yep.
dropped the forks, the front end, and it did whatever. But like, it sounds like you live like in a moonscape. Like your soil's crazy. Like I got soil. Like, look, my soil around here, I can
Oh
feed
yeah.
the world. Like I got great soil. Like it sounds like you live. Like I don't know. Like it looks like like a dude in a full spacesuit at the moon landing would come hopping by, 2 feet kicking up the dirt. It's like Nebraska does not sound like it's got.
You
I mean, wait, Nebraska's
yeah.
got good soil. You have
You
big
get
ass
you get
farms
you
up
get a
there, or is
mile
it
from my
upstate from
house,
you?
but it's a completely different soil type. So what it is when the
Oh,
glaciers came through and they dug out the Ohio River Basin and the Missouri River Basin and the Mississippi River Basin. So on each side of the river, there's some river bottom, and then there's pretty much straight up
yeah,
bluffs. So
yep.
my soil consists of all of that river bottom rich soil that got pushed up to make the cliff that my house overlooks. So, like, if you walk out my back door,
Oh,
I've got about 15 yards of backyard, and then it's about 250 foot straight down. And the only thing that's going to slow you down on your way down is the 3,000 trees you'll bang your head on the way down. But the soil type is
okay,
that sandy, loamy, real loose stuff. Once you get a mile off of the bluffs, then you get into the rich black, cornhusker agricultural
okay.
soil.
I mean, you know, I'll tell you what. I keep looking at the numbers for speaking agricultural soil. I keep looking at the numbers for agriculture and kind of where things are going long term and the way things are changing around the world and how they're not going to be changing back. And I am looking more and more because I'm a businessman. I'm looking more and more and more at actual agriculture. It's like, I mean, don't be surprised, a listener at home, if all of a sudden one day I'm like, the John 1911 range has moved. It's like you're basically like, from that horizon to that horizon is all ours, and the gun range is here in the middle, and then I've got we're farming the rest of it, whether I gotta lease it out or do whatever. So, because at some point it's going to make a lot of sense economically, to do that, to do something. So that's why I keep looking at all the farms around us too. One, to protect the range, but it's like, you know, the farming is becoming way more interesting to me, which is really saying something considering my grandfather was a farmer, and I was never anything I was interested in, or the rest of the family, and he would be probably smile. I'm sure he's grinning now down on me. He's like, "Yeah, look
That,
at you now, huh?" Like I remember my grandfather. So like in Virginia, my grandfather and my two uncles. It was Albert, Kermit, and Bailey. That's their I swear to God, that's their names. And the three brothers, and they each had 200 or 400 acres, whatever it was. And I know there was a couple tractors, and I remember the tractors, and the tractors look old to me even as a kid, like in the 70s and the 80s. It was the same tractor, and looking back on it now, like I remember the tractor was a pan that just floated on like a piece of like spring steel up in the air off the back of this thing. And like I think now that I'm looking at tractors, I think it was a 4 to 8 end
okay.
tractor. I think it was either that or a Massey Ferguson or a Ferguson tractor, which I guess they're very
Yeah.
similar. So I wish I had paid more attention so I can know. I really wish I had my grandpa's tractor, but God, those things are so dangerous. It's like there's just no way. I mean, but
The split front
I've
axle
even
ones aren't so bad. So like the 8 ends, 9 end Fords, they're not so bad. Now
yeah.
my cousin is into the old green John Deere tractors with the narrow front ends, where the two front wheels are just 6 inches apart. And I take them out and run around with them, and I bring them right back and go, nope, I'm going to go climb in my air conditioned cab Coyote.
Yeah, I think they converted a lot of those. Like I think I don't remember if my grandfather's tractor's wheels were close or if they were far apart, but it was kind of hilly there in
Mm-hmm.
central Virginia. Like it wasn't like my grandfather wasn't farming in Washington D.C., in Alexandria. It was like in Tazewell
Mm-hmm.
County, like down in middle Virginia and real Virginia as opposed to occupied Virginia. And like the I mean the family farms down there had as much or more role that the John 1911 and our farms down in the river basins have. When you get up into central Ohio, it
Mm-hmm.
gets real flat, but down here in this area, because of the river and the way the because you were talking about the glaciers, they came through, made all the fields flat, but then they stopped, and that's where all the river
Mm-hmm.
basins, all drained and it all cut out because of the drainage, and that's what caused all that. So anyway, but I just yeah, farming's looking. The numbers on farming are looking really interesting, and you look at the prices of things, and you look at the input prices of stuff, and it's like, huh, it's I don't know. Like my grandfather, all that mostly what they ever grew was corn because they were dairy farmers, but they grew feed for
Mm-hmm.
their animals. So like I think maybe they took some stuff in. I don't know how it all worked, but they were animal farmers. So but there was a lot of crop to
Yeah.
support that. They weren't going like they were never like they didn't buy any food from anybody to feed their animals. So
Well, and that's just it anymore. Like even the bigger cattle ranchers around here, uh, they still around here. The big argument around here is we get into arguments with the Texas guys all the time. Yeah, this might create a bit of a storm with the listeners too. Is grass fed beef versus corn fed beef? If you're from the Midwest, it's corn fed beef. We'll argue it all day long, but that's because the ground's so fertile up here. Everybody grows corn, so we feed out the cattle on corn and sell the excess.
yeah, yeah, everything's corn up here.
Corn and
Well,
soybeans here
no.
predominantly.
Well, everything and mostly corn is here, but I'm trying to think of the cattle. I don't. Well, honestly, the because we had our when we bought the range that we're on now, we had a tenant farmer that worked our property, and we inherited him. And he worked our property, then he worked the farm next door. And then it got to the point, and he would hay our property, and he ran cattle at the neighboring
Mhm.
farm. And those cattle were eating grass. He was never feeding those. He would bring those cattle in. He wasn't corn
Well,
feeding
let me
those.
back up a little bit. We put them in pastures, and then after we pick the corn, a lot of times we put them out in the stock fields, uh, and then they're finished on corn. So I don't know what exactly the time frame would be, but say the last third of their life before they go to the slaughterhouse, they're getting a high diet of
Okay.
corn. So it
Okay.
really changes the flavor of the meat and adds to the marbling. Uh, I buy
Yeah.
half a cow at a time. I don't buy meat in the grocery store. And this last one I've got, it's so marbled I could probably pass it off as Wagyu beef. Yeah.
Really. That's. I mean, that's what unless you want that lean fillet. Um. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. Again, I'm the guy here. Like, I'm thinking about going into farming. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's like I remember. I remember being where I used to work, and they decided to put on a precision, it was a rifle course, but it was more for hunters, and it was like a hunter safety course
Mm-hmm.
plus. And so I was like, yeah, I'll sit in, I'll audit this because I just went in as a student. And they're up there, they're talking, they're doing this, and they're talking like the target zones and this and that, and they're talking from back to brisket and blah 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 blah, and it's back to brisket and blah 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 this stuff, and then it's going on and on. It's going for like 30 minutes. So does anybody have any questions? I'm in the back, and I'm like, I gotta fucking do it because I don't know what the fuck you're saying. I put my hand up, and they're like, yeah, I'm working, and I go, what's the brisket? And literally, they're all like, they're loud. I'm like, hey, look, it's like, look, I'm the one brave enough to ask it. So, and then, then the other guy who he works there, he's also like he's the local where I worked. He was also the county deer processor, and he goes, it's the tasty part. So, yeah. Yeah, where's that? I'm the guy literally is like, what's the brisket? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like shit, give me a break. At least I'm honest. If I don't know something, I'm gonna ask.
So
So I ask stupid questions all the
brisket's
time.
kind of funny, actually. Uh, until fairly modern times, brisket was a really, really cheap cut of meat because you have.
I always thought it was a cheap cut of meat,
Oh, it's not
actually.
anymore, but we'll get there real quick. Uh, so back back in the older days, uh, a lot of Jewish people ate brisket because it was about the only beef they could afford because it was the cheapest cut off of a cow because it was so tough. Same way with the Irish, and they learned to corn it basically, but you have to slow cook it to get it to tenderize. When I say slow cook, when I smoke a whole brisket, it's a 12, 14,
That takes all
16
day.
hour cook.
Yeah.
Now with the popularity of barbecue and everybody has, pellet smokers and all of that, just to go buy a cheap choice grade Packer brisket at Sam's Club is going to cost you 70, 80, $90 now. It's just went through the roof where 20 years ago you couldn't give a brisket away because unless you were basically from, say the Texas area, nobody really knew that you smoked brisket. You ate it once a year with some cabbage and corned beef and unless your ethnicity wise it was part of your diet, you didn't even know what a brisket was.
I remember as a kid, my mom, they could get brisket and it was
Mm-hmm.
cheap. It was cheap. I mean, I don't cook, so I mean, I don't know, but I remember like it wasn't fancy. Brisket wasn't fancy, and as a matter of fact, I remember, it was corned beef and or like they would do, yeah, it was like cabbage and yeah, I mean, it was a cheap
Mm-hmm.
meat. Now it's
Oh,
expensive,
it's
huh?
very expensive. There's a lot of steaks that are actually cheaper per pound than trying to buy even just choice grade brisket.
Wow, I
Yep,
didn't know
and
that.
it's
Well,
all due to
they
barbecue.
say they say that lobster used to be like real cheap food.
Hmm.
Like, you go up to Maine, I'd go up there to, yeah, I guess it's Maine and Massachusetts. Yeah. And like, I mean, you get lobster everywhere. And like, apparently lobster was considered like a very working class
Yep.
food. That's
Yep.
what they
I had read
say.
that
I
just
mean,
not too long here ago. Same thing. It was even used to feed like prisoners.
yeah. As a matter of fact, I think there was some kind of oyster that I think was around Manhattan in New York. That was like, like you could just get the oyster, and like people could just get oysters. Like you walk out onto the water and just scoop up
Hmm.
oysters, and it was cheap food for broke ass people. And now it's like, oh God, oysters, holy smokes, like it's a big
Yeah.
deal. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I've been paying a lot of attention to food around the world, especially with the war going on in Ukraine, and just stuff going on in China, um, and just and the markets. Like I know that there's a swine flu outbreak that's going on in China that they're trying to downplay it. Something happened in Argentina. What happened in Argentina? Something's going on down there. Their crop, maybe their crop wasn't as good as it could be. And there's all the drama going on with Ukraine because they're a big wheat exporter and sunflower seeds and wheat. And a lot of that Russian wheat was really from Ukraine. And like I don't they don't even there's certain some people are saying that you're not going to see any of that shit come out this year. They say it's going to be terrible because the Russians are going to start going after it. And then there's what else? Well, there was something else. And then like the crazy ass Europeans are trying to shut down all their farmers for green stuff. And they're having like up and and it's like what in holy hell are you people thinking?
Eat bugs
You
to save
know?
the world.
I mean, it's just like, like I mean, people in England trying to, like run down their agriculture. It's like, don't you assholes remember the U-boats? It's like y'all almost starved. It's like my God. Like I just, I look at this and I'm just thinking, I'm a business person, and I'm just like, I don't like this. I'm just like, I'm surrounded by farms, and they're farmers that are older, and they don't have a lot of money, and they're getting out of it, they're retiring. The kids don't want it, and it's just like I don't want this to be a subdivision.
Yeah.
Like I'm obviously I'm not against nice houses, but it's like, come on. Like it's like, I'd rather lock a bunch of stuff up and have a bunch of property, have it be a working farm, make it farms. And it's really appealing to me, and it's and it's making economic
Yeah.
sense. It's like, why does I'll put it this way, I see these commercials for who's the who's the country singer that does he does commercials for Fendt tractors, but I think he's a judge on one of these online talent shows.
So
And
wait a minute, wait a minute. So like we've established, I fish, I race cars, I scuba dive, I do all kinds of redneck stupid stuff. So I'm your go-to guy for who's the country singer? Really now? But I think it's
I mean,
but I'm pretty sure it's Blake Shelton you're talking about.
no, I don't think it's Blake Shelton because I think this guy lives in Tennessee, and Blake Shelton I
Well,
think lives in Oklahoma.
that's
I
like
don't remember.
everybody but Blake Shelton and Toby Keith then, and Garth
I
Brooks.
don't think it's I don't think it's Blake Shelton. I think it's this guy makes popcorn. He's got a line of popcorn that he does. You buy my popcorn,
Yeah,
and he's like with my fit tractor.
you got me
Um,
stumped there because once you get out of '90s country, I'm kind of lost anyway.
okay, so okay, you know what? All right, then you know what? Then you can. I've wanted to remember this dude's name, and I think he does. I remember. I don't know why I saw this. I was reading about it's. He's one of the country singers, and I think he's always wears like a leather hat, and he's got like the facial hair, and he's got the really low voice.
Oh,
He's real
he's
country,
done some
and you
movies
read his
too.
bio. What's
He's
his
been in
what? What
some
was that?
movies too. I could tell you if I wasn't trying to think of it. I can picture him plain as
And
day.
you read this guy's biography, and he's been like shot and stabbed and run over and freaking literally said, oh, one time I got shot. He got shot. Like maybe he was shot by a woman. Like I was like crazy shit. Like this guy's more gangster than any gangster. He's got more paper than anybody in cell block C in a penitentiary. I mean, he's like literally shot and stabbed. And I'm like, my God, like he's like real country. I mean, he's like, Waylon Jen, like he's like a hard, like when they were living it, it wasn't just a song, and it's just like, I'm trying to remember that
I
guy's
I
name.
just saw him in a movie here not long. The Lincoln Lawyer. And he
I,
played a
I,
he played a biker, and it's like he's not having to play very hard to make to sell that one.
yeah. And as a matter of fact, I think he does commercials for your line of tractor. He does coyote commercials and talks about his coyote like he does them around his property. The one guy I'm thinking of, and this guy's literally like you look at his biography, you're like, holy cow, dude! Like I mean, like his biography is like an old core country song. It was like like holy cow. So, but he lives a charmed life. But speaking of charmed life, I want you to answer a question for me.
Okay,
Do you think the what's not the Duke of Edinburgh? What's
Trace Adkins.
that is the guy. Did you Google that?
No, I actually did not.
Trace Adkins. That is his
Yep,
name. That is, yeah, I'm telling you, that guy, like, dude, like, you pull a gun on that guy, he's like, I've been shot
yep.
before. You stab me, he's like, I don't care. I mean,
Just
like,
looks like the guy that makes the devil turn around and go, yeah, not today.
Trace Adkins. So there's a story going around. There's a story going around that Prince Harry could be deported because either he was given special treatment or he lied on his immigration application because you can't you get you hear stories about like American celebrities who don't get let into these countries
Mhm.
because they've got arrest records or drug charges, and Prince Harry is admitted on his in his public speaking and in books and everything that he's done all these drugs and cocaine and all this other stuff, and it's like, wait a minute, didn't you fill out the U.S. immigration officially? I believe the U.S. immigration application even has a section on it that says, at least it used to, it says that you sign that you're not a communist. Do
Mhm.
you remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm pretty sure that's still there. I know there's some people that have come into this country who are like, you goddamn communist. You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, who's who's the, who's the girl who's, uh, some people did something girl.
Oh,
She's
the
um,
Congresswoman,
yeah, Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan Omar, yeah, from Minnesota.
Yeah, I feel like she's a communist. I mean, I'm not trying to slander her, but I'm like, yeah, it's not just like she's a Muslim kind of thing. Because look, that's not how it works. Muslims that love America and they live here, they fight for America, they're patriots. They
Hmm.
and they're But I feel like Ilhan Omar is like a communist, and like she doesn't really like the country, and I don't know. I question whether she could legit pass that thing. But she may have been I think she was so young when she came here that maybe it didn't really apply to her. She was like 5, and so it was like
Yeah,
you really can't be a communist at 5.
no. But how'd
I mean,
that?
unless you grew up in Cuba.
But wasn't there some issues with her supposedly marrying her brother for immigration status?
Oh, so she's a hillbilly. So she's okay. That's right. That's right. She's a hillbilly. So, she's, banjos and, all that. Oh, was that the wrong stereotype?
I was
That's the
thinking,
stereotype of
like
my,
Ozarks, Arkansas,
well, that's no, that's the stereotype of my people. That's,
Well, it's
like
all the same region,
a lot of the redheads in West Virginia, Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Tennessee. Those are my people. And, like, dude, okay, all right, let me ask you this question. Have you ever had the blue people in Nebraska? You know what the blue people are?
The blue people.
Have you ever heard of the blue people?
Not that I recall.
Okay, so there is a phenomena that happens in, I'm pretty certain it's Eastern Kentucky, but it's basically on the West Virginia border, which obviously is Eastern Kentucky. But it's a situation where there's some kind of genetic regression that somebody has, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's where if they interbreed with somebody else who also has this genetic regression, it turns their skin blue. Like, I don't know if it turns their skin blue or if it, I guess it turns their skin blue, and it's not from the blood. Like, it's not like it's translucent. You can see the blood through, but it literally, they turn blue, like blue,
Hmm.
and these people, they're like I think University of Kentucky even documented, they were like, why are these people blue? Like, these people, they lived like, they immigrated to some little holler, and they were so cut off from the world that they were intermarrying. It might be two or three. I mean, they weren't. It might have been a situation where maybe someone married a sister, or or a first cousin, but it could have been where, where it got to be where it was, a second cousin or third cousin, but they were already so interbred that they just started, a whole bunch of them turned blue, and like they would pass it on to their kids, and this went on, like, I think, like, there's a family that's been blue for 100 years, and they're getting lighter and lighter, the blue people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not that interbred if you don't have the blue
Now
people.
we don't have the blue people. We just got the brother husbands, and not so bad here, but I'm just kind of we call ourselves a northern suburb of Missouri sometimes. Uh, but you get down the Ozarks, and I've run around your neck of the woods, and I've got some friends in southern Ohio and Kentucky and Virginia, and I've always said there's always a little bit of a lot of times you can always find at least a little bit of truth in most stereotypes. So, the old small Virginia town with Bartles and James playing checkers on a whiskey barrel. That's I've seen it. Seen it. Might have actually won a game or two myself.
So I'm going to send you a picture. I'm going to text it to you. So the blue people, it's called the blue, I don't know if I can pronounce this, the Fugates, Fugates family. The Fugates, a family living in the hills of Kentucky, starting in the 19th century, 1800 for the public school people, 1800s, were commonly known as the Blue Fugates, or the Blue People of Kentucky. They were known for being carriers of the genetic trait that led to the blood disorder, oh my God, meth methbeglobinemia. I think I actually got that. Methbeglobinemia, so it's close,
Okay.
causing the skin to appear blue. And let me send you, hold on, what's this say here? Kentucky, founded 1820. Um, Let me send you, do you have your phone close by?
Yeah, yeah.
These are the pictures I'm sending you. There's two pictures. The picture of the individual guy, and I'll put these pictures in the comment section of the individual guy wearing glasses. That guy's living today. That's a
Oh
modern
Lord.
photograph. And the family photograph, that's from like 80, 90, or 100 years ago. Those people. That is not colorized. That is real.
Wow.
That dude is like pop. Like, I think the dude who's by himself, the modern photograph, I think they call him Papa Smurf. You know,
Okay. Yeah. I read something about that, and it was on Facebook, so I didn't take it overly seriously, of course.
Yeah, you
Uh,
got to watch that shit on Facebook.
yeah, but literally, like pretty much one family, just generations upon generations, right?
Yeah, this has been going on for 200 years. It's 1820. They detected them in 1820. It's now 19. It's now 2023.
Yeah, that beats any Ozark stories I got.
I gotcha.
You
So,
got me on that one.
a few gay family. Oh shit! Check this out. The family photograph that I sent you with all the people that are blue.
Yeah.
That's from 1820. That photograph's from 1820, not 1920.
Well, and there's adults in it, so obviously you can go
Wait a
back
minute. Did
even
they have
farther than
photography?
that.
Wait a minute. Did they have photography in 1820? I got to be careful about that. I got
That
to think about that
that
one.
one looks almost like it's been enhanced.
Maybe that. You know what? That's drawn.
I don't.
That's a
That's a
photograph of
portrait.
a. Yeah, that's a photograph. I don't even know. So anyway, let's see what is it is. Recessive metho, whatever it's called, MET-H gene. As a result, 4 of the 7 children exhibited blue skin and continued reproduction within a local limited gene pool, ensuring that many descendants of the Fugates were born with MET-H, which is the methohemoglobin, whatever. The disorder can cause heart abnormalities and seizures if the amount of methoglobin in the blood exceeds 20%, but at levels between 10 and 20, it can cause blue skin. Like this is blue.
Yeah.
Descendants of the gene continued to live near Troublesome Creek into the 20th century. They lived, so their holler was called Troublesome Creek. Damn, and eventually came to the attention of a hematologist in, wherever, whatever, and so, and on and on and on. This is real. Benjamin Stacy, born in 1975, was the last known descendant of the Fugates to have been born exhibiting the characteristic blue color of the disorder, though he quickly lost his blue skin tone, exhibiting only blue tinges on his lips and fingertips when he became cold or agitated.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, yeah, that it's crazy what's out there. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we got, so next time you're catfishing on Ohio River, if you see a blue guy, you're not having a stroke. It's like, you're like, holy shit, that's one of them blue people. So are we going to talk about Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels, or should we just skip it?
Well, the only thing I've got to say on that is it just looks awful political to me. Uh, you know, they say you can indict a ham sandwich. It doesn't sound like it.
Well,
it
well, apparently you can't.
but
Like,
apparently, Fat Alvin, as he's been nicknamed now, can't get a ham sandwich indicted. If the local news, if the news pundits are to be believed, he can't get 12 out of 23 to agree uh, on indicting him. So it looks like this might wind up being a big nothing burger.
I mean, I don't supposedly. Oh, I not. I mean, I don't know how it works in the Southern District of New York or the state of New York, because he's a state lawyer.
Yeah.
He's a county guy, I would think. So, I have been a part of grand juries and not a juror. And they they're one man shows. It's not a trial.
Oh
There
yeah,
isn't a
yeah.
defense. There is, like, most people don't realize, there isn't a defense. There's not someone on the other side. Like, the prosecutor is basically telling a story to an audience and bringing in people and asking that person questions to the audience, and it's my side and there's no other side. That's why they say you can indict a ham sandwich, because there's a lot of prosecutorial discretion, because you can string a story together, especially with some evidence or some corroborating statements, and you can get indictments. That's why who you elect as a prosecutor, in your county is a big deal. Like, we've said this on this podcast before. People go crazy over who's president, but I got news for you, bud. Like your prosecutor, your mayor, and your chief executive of whatever you live, and your county sheriff are way more important to your life than the president will ever be. And I can prove this because people were like, you know, George. I remember they all said George Bush stole the election. He wasn't. Not my president, and all this other kind of stuff. And then it was people were like Barack Obama, ruined the country. He's a Kenyan and all this other stuff, and everything's terrible and whatever, and it didn't ruin the country, and apparently Donald Trump's a Nazi, and he's going to put people in camps. That never fucking happened, and and Joe Biden's not even there half the time. Like, Joe Biden's not running the country.
No.
Joe Biden's not running, like Joe Biden's not coordinating the Pentagon and, sending arms to Ukraine. It's other people. It's the West Wing and the Department of Defense and the apparatus of the entire government. Your local county prosecutor, your local sheriff, and your local chief legal authority are the people. Like, there's stories out of Illinois, like they're not this sheriff, they're not going to enforce these crazy AR-15 bans because the sheriff's like, hey, this is unconstitutional and I have a constitutional office, so I'm not going to do it. That's more important. Donald Trump or Joe Biden are not going to take your AR-15 away in your local life. It's going to be your sheriff that's going to do it. And but to get back to the point, this guy, this all-powerful brag prosecutor, he's the son of a famous prosecutor. He can't get an indictment, apparently. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's like, what the hell? Like, I mean, like, I don't understand what the problems are.
Well, if the news is to be believed, the case revolves around the testimony of Cohen. The disbarred attorney who went to prison for lying under oath.
Yeah, the guy that went to prison for perjury.
Yeah. So the problem comes into, the way I understand, they brought in a guy named Bob Costello, who was Cohen's legal advisor during this time frame. And Bragg had cherry-picked about 6 emails of Cohen's to prove that this was election money used to further his election prospects with Stormy Daniels. But Costello came in with 30-some pages of emails that contradicted everything that Cohen said. So the problem becomes with jury instructions, whether it's a grand jury or any jury, a standard jury instruction is, if you believe that there was testimony that contained lies, you can disregard all of the other testimony and consider it a lie also. So we've got 6 cherry-picked emails against 30-some pages that says, Cohen's full of shit, and that's where everything's falling apart. So now you're not able to get to that 13th person that's like, well, I think there's a reasonable belief he probably did it. So
Well,
if the news is to be believed, that's what's hanging
it's not
about.
even a reason. It's not even a reasonable doubt. It's in a grand jury. It's a preponderance of the evidence. I'm certain.
Yep.
It's not a reasonable doubt, isn't it? Isn't it just a preponderance of the evidence?
It's preponderance of the evidence that there is a reasonable belief a crime had occurred. So you don't even have to meet probable cause standards. It's 50% plus 1 grain of sand.
Yeah,
there's a reasonable belief that a crime might have occurred.
The 50 plus 1 is what we would call here a preponderance of the evidence.
Yep, that's the way it was taught to me.
Yeah, so
50% and 1 grain of sand.
Yeah, but okay, I'm not someone that really. I never really paid attention to Donald Trump until he became president. But I mean, apparently, I gotta be careful here. So apparently this first interaction happened in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a, you know, that has nothing to do with the election. And apparently, my understanding is, I don't know if it's 100% true, that he may have given her money then. Like, she came back and he was like, whoa, chill the fuck out, and gave her a little money. Somebody gave her money.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a lawyer do it and do whatever. And then in 2016, when he's running for president, she popped back up wanting more money.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave it to her. And that's apparently the evidence that Cohen, because Cohen gave her the money.
Yep.
And Cohen said in documents that it was his money, and they're showing it was his money, and he was not reimbursed by Donald Trump. And it's like, okay, that's not campaign. Like, the thing is, everybody's talking, and no one really knows because there hasn't been, a grand jury proceedings are secret for a reason, because they can say all kinds of salacious shit, and if it turns out they don't indict you, they don't want to slander you. Well, the theory that the media is floating around, this is somehow a campaign, like maybe the novel idea is that Bragg is trying to say this is an illegal campaign contribution, because I guess federal election laws say you're maxed out. You can give $5,000 max
Mm-hmm.
to a campaign. Like, I cannot give Donald Trump more than, if I give Donald Trump $5,001, that could be charged with a campaign violation, and he could be charged for taking it. So they have an accounting system. Well, it's like, okay, so they're trying to make the argument that Cohen giving whores money somehow was a campaign contribution for Donald Trump.
Yep.
And the money didn't come from a campaign. The money apparently didn't come from Trump, at least not directly. I mean,
Yeah.
if Cohen was, if Trump was his own client, it's one of those things like, we'll pay you later, which is obviously what goes on. But the idea that they can string this up as some kind of illegal federal election campaign violation, or some kind of campaign violation, with a state law, is so crazy.
Yeah. See, and
Well,
that's where the rest of it falls apart, because he's a state prosecutor. The state statute that would apply to this, the statute of limitations, ran out. So he's trying to bootstrap federal charges onto this. So then the question becomes, can he even legally bring the charges, because it's federal charges and he's a state prosecutor?
well, you know what that brings to mind? And this is really reaching back to the past. And I made a reference to, if who you choose as your county prosecutor can really make a difference in your life, because it's super important. Do you remember the Duke Lacrosse stripper case?
Mm, I the Duke lacrosse thing I seem to remember was something. Maybe it was Howard Stern made a comment or something, or no,
No, that was
Bob
no, no,
Bob
no, no,
Imus, or
no, 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 no.
oh, this is something different.
Don Imus is the one who was talking about the female basketball players at
Okay,
Rutgers, and he called them nappy-headed H's.
yeah.
And that no, no, no. The Duke lacrosse case was a. It's either, I don't know if it was a fraternity or if it was the lacrosse. I don't know why the lacrosse team would live together, or if they came together for. They had a party
Oh, the rape
as
case.
and they ordered some strippers, and I don't know if they had planned on ordering black strippers, or if it was, you know but if I remember, I think they ordered strippers, and I think a couple girls showed up, which is not uncommon. Um, and they were black girls, and I think the show went fine, or the performance went fine. But then one of the girls maybe felt like, I don't know, she was maybe aggrieved, or she felt like she was aggrieved. So she left, and she claimed that she was raped at this party. And there was I believe there was another stripper that had been there. Was like, I could be misremembering, but basically she was like, I don't remember seeing anybody getting raped. And so but what happened was this became a bunch of entitled white kids at Duke, which is a very highfalutin school for the public school people listening, and a black disadvantaged young female who happens to be a stripper. And so you've got the race dynamic, you've got the class warfare dynamic, you've got the male female dynamic, and wow, I'm really remember this. There was a prosecutor, and his name was it Nifong? Am I getting that right? I think his name was,
Sounds pretty
and
close anyway.
this became a national story. This is a prosecutor. He's a white guy. His name is Nifong, and he decided. And long story short, he decided that even though he had exculpatory evidence that this shit didn't happen, he went ahead and he ran these kids through the ringer. He had them all, and he indicted a whole bunch of them. A lot of them got kicked out of school, or like it affected their whole lives. Like some of them
Yeah.
were getting ready to graduate, they had jobs like in New York, working on Wall Street, and now they're raped up in this like racial whatever case. And what ended up happening was it was all dismissed. It all collapsed. I think the stripper might have gotten a misdemeanor perjury. They might have been negotiating on a misdemeanor. The prosecutor went to jail. The prosecutor was convicted of a felony. He had done something in this case, in signing some document or doing something that basically was illegal, because he wanted to push the case. He pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And then when it all came out and they had to bring in an outside prosecutor, and and it took years, and Nifong, and what they did is they convicted him of a felony, and they made him serve 1 day in jail. Because they didn't, he was, he was a prosecutor. He was been the county prosecutor, the prosecutor. If he goes to prison, he's going to get he's going to get beat to death and ass raped every day. Like, it's just like, that's not going to happen. He can't. It depends on what he did. But so what they did is he got the felony, and he went to jail, and he had to serve 1 full day in jail, because that guaranteed that he would be disbarred, and he could no
Yeah.
longer hold any public office. And I don't know what's going on up there in New York. Does this Alvin Bragg guy, like, who is leaning on him that he thinks, does he think that he's like this is going to, like, after this, I get to become governor? Like, what was going on up there with this?
I've heard two theories. One theory is it's basically he's being leaned on by the White House, because he originally killed this case when he first took office,
Oh, did
and
he?
had two of his lead prosecutors actually get mad and quit over the deal. And then
Really?
all of a sudden, Trump announces he's going to run, and we're bringing this case back to life. As ugly as the case is, evidently at all costs. So I've heard two theories. Both of them could be right, both could be wrong. You know how the news works.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, one side is, one case is, he's getting leaned on by the White House and the DNC, because they're worried about Biden having to face Trump down. And the other is he feels if he can be the first person to do a perp walk with Trump, that puts him in the state house in New York, that he can beat Hochul next time.
So he is thinking about running for governor. I was just guessing.
Yeah, no, there's been no secret that he's been eyeing the state house,
Holy shit.
and he's got Soros money behind him. So
Holy shit.
even if he loses the case, if he can say I'm the first guy to the well, I think it was one of the idiots on Fox News, was talking about the importance of historical pictures. What what would be a more historical picture than Trump in handcuffs doing a perp walk?
You and I, was it you and I that were talking about this, or was it someone here in the office? I can't remember.
You and I have.
So we had talked about, and you actually had said some stuff that's come true. Um, I want to give you credit for that because we were talking about the percentages, like what's the likelihood this is going to happen, not going to happen, not going to happen, it's going to be delayed. And you said, I think it's going to get delayed. I don't think this is going to happen. And you called that like days ago, and you were right. I want that on record that you got that right. Um, and then we talked about, okay, forget the double standard of how they would handle this if it was Trump versus Obama, like things we handle
Hmm.
privately, negotiated, like, hey, turn over the documents, do whatever. Like, come on. But, neither here nor there. Donald Trump is a former president of the United States. Donald Trump has Secret Service protection for the rest of his life, and he needs it. Donald Trump, if he goes into processing, will have Secret Service protection, and that will not stop. And what people need to understand is the Secret Service cannot be ordered by any police officer in New York to do anything in regards to Donald Trump. And what I mean by that is, like the media, I've been hearing some of these media. You and I, I'm illuminating for the listener, not for you, because
Yeah.
you know this. Krakens, we worked all this out. Okay, Donald Trump is not going to be patted. Okay, Donald Trump is not going to be processed in jail. He's not going to be into processing in the entrance with other people around. Because what if somebody hurts him? What if somebody takes a poke at him? What if somebody does something? Secret Service is not going to allow it. They're just not going to allow it. And be like, well, the fucking cops, whatever. The news, it's a fantasy. The news, the way they're talking like this, like the New York Police Department can't physically pat Donald Trump down without the Secret Service saying, okay, go ahead. And so okay, and then we take us to its next level. It's like, okay, they process him, they roll the fingerprints. They probably have electronic, I would hope they have electronic fingerprints, but they gotta roll the fingerprints. They do electronic rollings, they don't have to do the ink. And then they do the mugshot. And anyone that knows kind of how this works, you're not supposed to smile in your mugshot. And you're not supposed to do certain things. And Donald Trump is not going to stand there looking all mopey in his mugshot. Donald Trump he's going to be smiling because he's going to be like, I'm Donald Trump. And then the person operating the camera is going to be like, don't smile. And Donald Trump's going to be like, I'm smiling. And then what Donald Trump's going to do is he's going to stick up both his thumbs and he's going to put his hands up and he's going to give a thumbs up in this picture because that's who Donald Trump is. He's not going to let them do a bullshit photograph. Well, a normal person, the deputies, the jailers would immediately grab those hands and put them down and hold them, be like, don't fucking, stand still. Don't fucking, do this, that. They can't do that because the Secret Service is going to be right there. And if they try to manhandle the president, the former president of the United States, the Secret Service will beat the fuck out of the NYPD. Under no circumstances will the Secret Service allow the NYPD to manhandle or manipulate Donald Trump without them deciding how it's going to go. So Donald Trump's going to have his thumbs up and he's going to be smiling, and that's the photograph. And nobody's going to do shit about it. And then here's the other thing. This fantasy like Donald Trump's going to jail. What if they don't give him bail? It's like, well, cool story. If Donald Trump goes to jail, they'd go, guess what? You're going to be in holding, and we're going to put you in block 4, in cell 4 with the other guys until we're done. Well, Secret Service is going to be like, okay. Secret Service will be like, everybody's out of that cell, and and they're going to be like, and the Secret Service isn't going to allow themselves, like let's say like, well, they're going to go into the jail with him. They'll sit there with Donald Trump in the jail, but their job is to protect Donald Trump. And part of the thing, the number one thing they can do to protect a president or a former president is to evacuate him. They will not allow themselves to be locked in a cell with Trump that they can't get out of. They won't allow NYPD to do it. So this won't happen. And it's like, okay. And then it's like, well, then let's say a judge decides that Donald Trump has to go into county lockup until he makes bail or something. Oh, you got to be here till Monday till you make bail for arraignment. Well, Secret Service, they could play the game. Like, well, okay, we'll put him in whatever. And they're going to be like, everybody's off this tier. Secret Service is here. And they're not going to allow anybody, because what if somebody takes a poke at Trump or does something, or someone gets hurt? Or if anybody gets hurt, this is going to look terrible. And then, even if the Secret Service decides to play along up to a certain point, all the Secret Service has to do is go, okay, this is enough. This is getting unsafe. We're leaving. And at that point, they're leaving. And if they call for help, and they're like, because they don't have the full battle wagon that the actual president has, but he's got a lot of Secret Service protection. Like, he's still got a fair amount of Secret Service. He's not like Jimmy Carter, but like 3 fucking dudes. They're coming. They are not going to let them be like, we can't get him out. We got to get him out. All the detail has to say is, we need help, danger. And dude, they will tear that fucking building apart to get him out of that fucking building, just because they have to protect him. And that's a nightmare. And this idea, the media and Fox News and CNN and MSNBC and all these other getting on goddamn television with all these bullshit fantasies about, like, they're all psycho. It's like they're all like, Donald Trump's we're gonna stick it to him and we're gonna win 2024, and the other people are like, we're gonna fucking take him down and he's never gonna be president again. And it's like, all of this is fake bullshit just to get everybody riled up, because it's like, it's so obvious how this is going to happen. And here's the other thing. Okay, and like, let's say somebody's listening to me right now and they're like, Marky, you're so full of shit. Fuck you. It's, I work in the jail, it's my jail, my rules, it's, fucking judge, this and that. Okay, cool, that's fine. Let's say you win that argument, and, MSNBC's like, ha ha ha, fuck you, he's in jail, fuck you, he's got a fucking he's got the orange jumpsuit on, fuck, it's awesome. They totally do all that. All that has to happen, and it will happen, is something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to get hurt, somebody's going to get killed. It's either going to be in the jail or outside the jail, okay? And once this starts to turn violent, the next question is going to be, did this have to happen? He's not a flight risk. We know where he is. He's voluntarily come in. None of this fantasy shit of him getting locked up isn't going to happen. But even in the worst case fantasy, if it does happen and then something goes wrong, you think the White House and the West Wing and Joe Biden and the Democratic National Committee aren't sitting around going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What if somebody kills Donald Trump? And I'm saying this, I don't want the Secret Service coming after me. I vote for Donald Trump. I'll vote for him again, most likely. But it's like, what if they make a martyr out of the fucking guy? Like, you talk about making him, like, people do this, the more you fight against Trump, the stronger he gets. What if they Obi-Wan Kenobi his ass and he becomes like the fucking Force? He's the martyr of all martyrs. Like, this can go sideways real quick. And a lot of the people in the media that are talking out of their ass on both sides of the aisle are doing a disservice to everybody that they supposedly are serving by, like, telling them to quote news. It's terrible.
So let me take this a step further, and I've been working on this theory most of the day. As another reason for the delay, and probably why I believe now that he won't be indicted. I just think there's too many moving parts. So let's just get back to the basics. Are Secret Service going to give up their firearms?
No.
No. You cannot book a prisoner while carrying a firearm.
It dep-
Well,
that depends. That depends. That depends on where you're at and where the booking. Like, no,
what?
they don't.
But once they get inside the secure facility,
Yeah,
even the COs are not carrying firearms.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so they supposedly had this big meeting on Monday to try and coordinate how all this would work. So, one of the first things that would come to my mind, having worked corrections and booked prisoners from the street side of things, is Secret Service, you're not going to be allowed to have your guns past this point or any other impact weapons or anything else. And Secret Service says, the fuck we aren't. And the state says, no, you're not. And the Secret Service says, the fuck we aren't. And we're at an impasse right there. And the state's not going to give on certain things because it introduces danger into the jail. The Secret Service is obviously not going to give on certain things because that puts their principal in danger. So I think a big part of why there's a delay now is because they're working out so let's just say we get an indictment. How are we physically going to do this? Because Secret Service is telling us to fuck off, and we're telling Secret Service to fuck off. And without somebody really high up in Washington tying the hands of the Secret Service, which gets right back to
It's
your
never going to
worst
happen.
case scenario, something happens, who has to be the fall guy that made the decision to disarm Secret Service? It turns into, I hate to say it, but it could almost turn into a civil war.
It won't be a civil war, but we're nowhere near any of that. Like that kind
Well,
of,
and I don't mean that
I know you
literally,
don't.
but
I have to say that for the benefit of the listener.
yeah,
The only
it's going to make
way,
January 6th look small.
the only way to solve all the problems that you've postulated, it's very simple. It's very simple. And if I was the Secret Service and Justice Department, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be my standard procedure. I'm chief of detail for former president, and he has an appointment just like any other appointment, and he has to go to this place, and it's going to be a public place, and he's a very high profile former president, and so there's going to be an advance team, and guess what's going to happen? Your jail's fucking closed. It's closed. There's going to be no processing of prisoners. There's going to be nobody in the holding areas. There's going to be nobody in the photography areas. There's going to be nobody in the fingerprint areas. It's closed. Everything stops, and then we're going to do everything we need to do. And then guess what? He's leaving with us because as long as we're here, you're closed.
Yep. Well, you could even make it simpler than that. You could go to a FBI field office yet to be determined, and they can do everything by video right there, fingerprint him,
Yeah,
mugshot him,
yeah. You
do it
could
by
eat. Yeah.
video,
Oh, go ahead.
and get him safely out of the building before it's even released to the press that it's happened.
We had talked. You and I had talked about this that he could be easily fingerprinted and mugshotted at an offsite.
Yep.
But the city of New York and Alvin Bragg has done this stupid shit because they're being led on by the media, and I can't help but wonder if maybe there's starting to be some sane heads here because I bet at this point I'm convinced Donald Trump wants to be arrested,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and I don't think
And he
it.
wants the most perfect, beautiful mugshot. It was the perfect mugshot. It was
That was
beautiful.
the line you had told me, and I forgot. That is the line you had told me we were talking about this. Was it yesterday? The most perfect mugshot. And I was like, oh my God. Because it is. And it's like as of like yesterday, he has raised $1.5 billion in donations. Since like he announced that he was going to be arrested. And the media is like Donald Trump is scared and Donald Trump is nervous and Donald Trump is this and it's like this fantasy and they're trying to get everybody on their side. The problem with a lot of this, and I'm going to back up a little bit. The problem with a lot of this drama is you have people that are talking about what they want to have happen versus what can happen or what will happen. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't, at the point now, if you think Donald Trump is going to turn this, Donald Trump is going to do the mugshot. He's going to have the perfect smile with the perfect thumbs. He's going to have two thumbs up. That's the only debate. Is it going to be one thumb up or two thumbs up? And no one's going to be able to stop him. As soon as
Yep.
he's out of there, he's going to go to a rally and they're going to start selling T-shirts with that mugshot on it.
Yep.
And, and it's like, and I think dumbass swampy Washington is starting to figure this out. Like
Mm-hmm.
they see the ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi looking at them here like, even if you strike me down, I'll be more powerful than you could ever possibly imagine.
Yep.
And, it's like this just like so dumb. Like some of this stuff is so dumb.
Yep.
But the
And the
perfect mugshot.
motion to dismiss is already written.
Oh yeah.
And then when the case gets dismissed, because it is a shit case, okay? So when the case gets dismissed, can you imagine the next rally he's going to hold? And it's going to be two thumbs up, and he's going to go, it was a perfect mugshot, it was a perfect arraignment, and it was a perfect dismissal. You know what, guys? I'm kind of almost getting tired of winning, but here I am still winning.
Well, here's the thing. I need to say this because in the interest of we have not seen charging documents. We have not seen what has come out of a prosecutor's or out of a grand jury. So we don't actually know what the case is. We're
True.
theorizing. We've heard stories and rumors, but we don't know. So we have to be honest and we have to say, I don't know what the case is.
Yeah.
But it's like
Okay, so I'll back up the
but what
caveat
we're
being
hearing,
from what I've heard.
yeah, but what we're hearing, we're kind of saying ourselves, please God, tell me it's more than this. Please God, tell me it's more than, Stephanie Clifford coming back for another bite at the apple. That's Stormy Daniels' real name, by the way. Which it's almost infuriating. I have to know her name.
See, I'm an old Navy guy, so I don't know any of that porn stuff.
Well, I read, dude. I read it in New York Times. Don't lay that shit on me. Hey, get something you can't wash off, right? I mean,
that was the wheels of the bus. I hit you with both axes.
yeah, bam, bam. I was like, wait a minute, the Navy? Okay, hey, you
Keep
better be
fucking
careful.
around, I'll throw it in reverse and get you again.
Yeah, you better be careful. You might find you might find yourself a Village People video in the show notes section, okay, of a song, a particular song, if you want to go that route. So anyway, there we've officially talked about Donald Trump. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And in today's times, the way it's been on the news all day. We would be remiss not to bring it up and at least offer our opinions.
Yeah. So
So
okay,
let's talk about something really cool.
a
I
SWAT
got
officer, a SWAT officer dropping his sniper rifle off the roof during a St. Patrick's Day rally.
Well, I think my new baby is cooler than that, but we'll talk about that one first.
What? No, what's your new baby?
Well, I got that Scar 20S.
Oh, you have it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell us
I
about the
actually
Scar
actually
20S
scared the hell out of the wife at about 10 o'clock last night and walked out the back porch and ripped a few rounds off just to do a function check.
because you had to. I mean,
Yeah, I kind of had to. It's like a rule.
it's a rule. It's like yeah. It's like if you don't test it within 24 hours, like you can't invoke the lemon law or something, right?
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
yeah. It's a what do they call that? A consumer protection regulation.
Yeah, I would have been out of warranty or something.
Yeah. So
And
what?
and you can't warn the wife ahead of time because then she's going to tell you no, and it's easier to seek forgiveness.
So what color is your Scar 20?
It is the all black version.
Oh, the less desirable one.
Well, I got a can of Krylon, so we can always fix that.
Oh, you're gonna cry on your scar. Doc's gonna be crying. I when I spray paint the blazers, he's like I'm not doing that to my guns. It's like, all right.
Well, I'm
But
going to see if it'll shoot before I repaint it.
yeah, before you, yeah. So something had come up with that. So, what's the twist rate on your barrel?
It is a 1 in 10.
Which is a new development for the Scars.
Yes.
Because Doc's is I
1
think
in 12.
is it a 1 in 12 or 1 in 11 or 1 in 11 point
1 in
some?
12.
Is it a 1 in 12?
Yep.
And I know that, did I ever tell you the story about the guy? I know I did because I talked to him recently. So Doc, he has to shoot. He shoots like 155 grain because he couldn't. His heavier loads, they were becoming unstable like past 400 yards, and we were seeing erratic patterns, just like occasional things, and
Yeah.
it was super frustrating. And so we're talking about this, and this kid, he I don't remember where, somewhere on our social media somewhere, and he's like, I shoot 175s. I shoot tight groups. My Scar 20, shoots these 175s great, and all he's going on and how we have it all wrong and all this and all that. And I'm trying to be nice. I'm just listening to him like, well, we're seeing this and we're seeing that. What kind of load are you using or what this? And he doesn't handle. He's just factory ammo. It's all factory ammo. I finally got to the point about, well, what kind of groups are you getting at 600 yards with your factory ammo? Like, what are you seeing? And he's like, he goes, I don't ever shoot past 100. My range is limited to 100 yards. But he read on the internet that his gun can shoot 1,000 yards, apparently. And I'm just like, holy fuck. Like,
Well, it can, but
take
can
me.
it do it accurately?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you could take
It'll
it.
land somewhere out there.
You could take any gun and hold it at 45 degrees, see how far the
I,
bullet will go.
I can shoot this drill in 6 seconds, but can I do it with accuracy? No, that takes about 18.
Yeah, so it's going to be super interesting to see you running. Are you going to go for a 168, 175, or anything crazy like a 177, or what do you think?
I've got some 168 boat tail hollow point match Hornadies, and I'm going to try and run them and try and duplicate the federal gold medal match. If you believe the internet, uh, it the 1 in 10 shoots the 168s and 175s in the gold medal match pretty reasonably. Uh, so I've got 175 Sierras and 168 Hornady. So I'm going to try both and try and duplicate the velocities of those loads.
Okay.
I'm kind of going into this. I did a little research because you and I've talked about them before. Uh, and I think part of the problem why sometimes the 20S gets a bad rap is I think the accuracy expectations are set a little too high by a lot of people. They're a DMR type rifle. They're made more for rapid engagement, minute of man accuracy. Uh, I believe I read the accuracy spec on them is 1.3 minute of angle before they get red tagged. Uh, so in the world of precision shooting, that's a pretty big group.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, but you can slap a 20 round mag in it and engage targets out 4, 5, 600 yards fairly rapidly and be able to have it do its job at 1.3 minute of angle accuracy if you're up to it.
Yeah, I
You're
wouldn't.
not gonna.
I would really never personally take a Scar 20 out past 600 yards.
No, and that's everything. All the research I did. That's kind of the working range of what they're designed to do.
Yeah.
They're not made for like an HRT sniper to do an 800-yard half a headshot to save a
But some
hostage.
kid read on the internet, hey, but it's a 100. I can shoot 175 grain out to. I can 800 easily and do 1,000 yards if I push it. It's like now the Scar 20, you're not.
Yeah, I could see ringing torso size steel possibly at 800, but with
Oh
only a
yeah.
20-inch barrel and 2650 to 2600 is gold medal match in a 175.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get to about 900, and she's going to want to go subsonic on you, and that's when you start getting some yaw in it. And at that point, you're just lobbing dirt clods out there to see what'll stick. Uh, but that 400 to 600 yard range is where I think it's really going to shine.
Yeah, and that we can't reiterate that fast twist barrel really is. It's not a fast twist. It's what I would call standard twist for 308,
Mm-hmm.
762. And for years, some of the Scar guys, because we would publish stuff on the Scar, and they're it's a little like any brand. People get brand loyal, and they're like, it's a standard military, blah blah blah, and like and anyone that shoots precision is like, this gun is underspun. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this twist rate kills this gun. It's so slow, and FN probably did it because they look at 308 as a 147 grain, 150 grain ball ammo round, and that's what they do a lot of their you make an argument for the machine gun, 100 150 grain bullet, 147 150 grain bullet, and it's like, yeah, but we're kind of beyond that with this. And so it's just there's problems there, and there's been enough crying and bitching that I think also the military is, I think the SEALs in particular are backing off that Scar. And so FN has now decided, we're going to update this gun because we're going to sell more to the civilians market now. So now you get a one with a cool twist rate. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I've got to decide what I'm going to put on it for glass. I've got a couple options laying around.
What did
Uh,
you going to tell people what you have in
uh, I
it?
I got it pretty reasonable. I did a little horse trading. It's had 8 rounds through it by the time I got it.
Oh,
So
it's only had 8 rounds?
yeah,
Oh shit! I thought this was a used gun. It's not even used.
no, it's not even broke in.
I mean, FN doesn't ship those with test targets, do they? Like they do their bolt
No,
guns?
no.
Okay. So I mean, like this gun, like it's it doesn't even have, like FN, they always did a 3 round test target as I recall. Like it doesn't even have three, like a cider test group, and then like, oh, practice one, then it's like, okay, let's do the
Yeah,
third one like for real, put it on paper and sell it. Like that's
yeah.
that's good. So I know what you got in
No,
that
I
gun. You're sitting pretty good on that gun.
well, and it came with an Atlas bipod and 320 round magazines and a 10.
Are those like
And
$70 a piece? Are they still that expensive? Or have they
yeah,
come down?
they're pretty pricey.
Ugh.
Uh, so the 120 rounder that he used, when he told me he'd shot 8 rounds through it, well, when I counted the rounds left in that magazine, there was 12.
Oh,
So I even got the other 12 rounds that he'd loaded the original magazine up with. Basically, he put a can on it and shot it and uh, put it away. And it's one of them deals, where he's getting ready to move to Florida, so he was liquidating some stuff, and I had a couple of things he wanted, so we just put a deal together that worked out good for both of us, and there you go.
okay. The only advice I would give if you're going to do any kind of hand loads is, just from watching Doc's gun, is I would dial in the loading right at the 2650,
Yep.
because the Scars, what happens is if they get they I'm gonna say it like this: they'll blow primers because
Oh
they
yeah.
unlock, so they blow primers. And what can occasionally happen is, you can have a primer. Primer falls out of the gun. Falls out of the pocket. And ends up on the ground or whatever, or maybe in the magazine. It's not that big of a deal. But if it gets picked up and pushed back into the lugs or dropped down into the trigger group or in the action, and I've seen all three, I've seen primers lock up a Scar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I've never known a Scar is like, let me just put a little extra in there. I like a little extra foot per second. And it's like, because it's going to be interesting once you stick a suppressor on there to see what happens to the pressures and the primers.
I've already told you I'm not getting in the suppressor game. Stop trying to talk me into it.
Oh, we could get you in it.
But there is a reason when it comes to, factory ammo. There is a reason that departments issue federal gold medal match. I can get in a loading book, and I can probably, with 168 grains, I can probably start getting up to 2850, 2900 with the right powder combos. More often than not, those loads, you can get that speed. It's minute of deer out to 100 yards, but it is seldom the most accurate load.
Yeah.
And the other thing being, the reason I'm going to try and duplicate that 2600 is that is a shit ton of moving mass when that bolt carrier comes flying back.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get accuracy at 2650 and keep from beating the ever-loving shit out of the bolt carrier group in the back of the receiver, that's just an added bonus.
The gun, they don't beat themselves up. I will say this idea that the SCAR like destroys stuff, it doesn't. It does. That's all oversold.
No,
like
what I'm seeing a lot of is it's hard on scopes if you run cheap scopes and cheap mounts.
yeah. I'm not even 100% certain. I think there's some truth to that, but I think if you run a real scope like what we would run, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Like I've never like Doc is. He's all night force all the time. He's never damaged one of those on any of the SCARs.
There's about a 99% chance I'm going to pull one of my night forces off something else and throw it on.
Okay, well, we're excited. I'd like to see more about that and see what's going on and, see some, get some more precision rifle stuff done. We actually have some precision rifle stuff we've been doing in the background that we haven't been publishing because we're testing because I don't want to, I don't want to I don't want to get over my skis on it because there's a lot going on with it. So, which I think I've told you
Yeah.
about. So we've been going over I was literally, before we started, I was like, we're going to do an hour and be out. Number 2 hours. So let's do the police blotter, and we'll just go ahead and call it. So,
sounds good.
okay. So first police blotter is out of Denver, Colorado, and a student was coming in the morning, and he was apparently flagged for extra security or for extra attention. And one of the requirements was he needed to be patted down for a gun for weapons every morning before he came into school. And when they did with the process, he pulled out a gun and shot the 2 people that were checking him, and then he ran away, and then he shot and killed himself. And if you read this story the way it's reported, everything is routine, everything's fine. It was routine pat down, routine weapons check, routine this, routine that. And I'm thinking, what world do we live in where if a student it needs to be patted down for weapons every morning, why that student is still going to that school? How is that
Yep.
routine? None of this is routine. But the way they're spinning, it's all fine. Everything's fine. It's just routine. I'm like, no, it's not. Next story comes out.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. There's one more rat in that woodpile.
Oh, yeah?
There was not a school resource officer on property because the Denver school board had voted to not renew any new SRO contracts because they felt it intimidated people of color and perpetuated the school to prison pipeline theory. So it was probably whoever drew the duty that day, the gym teacher and the abnormal psych instructor, was the one checking, were the 2 people checking these kids, and there's evidently several of them, for weapons. So there was not even an SRO on property because of woke culture. So, they were off property, they were close, but they were not allowed on property unless they were actually called by the school. So that gets back to what you were talking about earlier. Politics are local. Don't disregard the school board elections, the county commissioner elections, the judge elections, and such.
It's just stupid. I mean, it's just, all of this is so stupid. Like, I know we're in the middle of the police spotter. We're trying to get out of this. But the older I get and the more this kind of stuff I see, I literally, like, I was having a conversation somebody today, and it's the fact that I would even say this is so insane. If people that actually know me, that I would even say this, but like sometimes I feel like I need to run for sheriff, or I need to run for the school board because I'm surrounded by stupid ass retarded people that are hurting the communities. And it's like,
Yep.
am I the last person with common sense? I am not somebody who is electable. I am not somebody that would even aspire to put myself in a position that I have to be on a school board, or I would even run for sheriff or run for city government or county government. But it's so out of control that a guy like me feels like I have to do it. There's a problem. If you are listening to this and you feel like you're looking at the world and you're like, I need someone, someone needs to fix some of this, like this is common sense, you need to start thinking about getting involved because this is crazy what they're describing at the school. Now you're telling me that
Yep.
that they're anti-cop and there's no SROs and they're checking people
None at
for
all.
guns, but that's normal.
Yep.
Like, well, whatever. Like, whatever. Okay, you know how.
And the parents didn't even know this program was even in place.
Of course not. I mean, they won't even know if they're wearing
Yeah.
dresses or not. Like, they'd probably give them
Right.
frickin', give them testosterone blockers, not even tell the
Yeah.
parents. It's like, why would they know? Why would they know if there's anybody, if there's, violent people? This is real simple. Like, do you know how you handle this? This is so simple. I mean, that's like, I don't know this school, Denver, I guess it's Denver, Colorado. Maybe it's a Denver Unified School District, I guess. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
All you have to do is you have a school that you call that school. It's the intervention school or the special program school or the reform school, or we call it
The shitbag
the
school.
day school. And guess what that is? That's your shitbag school. And every other school, you're a fucktard, you're out, Jimmy. You're a fucktard, you're out, Ray Ray. You're fucking out. And you can go to the bullshit school, and maybe if you get your head out of your ass, maybe we'll let you back, and that's where you send them. And then you have your gladiator academy down there,
Yep.
but they
And
just
if you fuck up here, you go to Gladiator Academy till you're 18.
yeah, gladiator academy. Then guess what? You're well prepared to go into prison because
Yep.
they're pretending they're whistling past the graveyard and they're fucking all these schools up by not kicking these
Yep.
kids out, and it's just terrible. It's like we used to have this, oh, little Johnny doesn't get to go to school here anymore because ever since the incident, so he goes to the other school. What's he learning at the other school? Well, he's learning to sit in a chair for 6 hours a day until 3 o'clock. Because whatever.
Exactly.
Because just it's like whatever. But no, we're just gonna have like these problems, and then people show up on TV and go, "Why does this keep happening?" I just explained it to you. Anyway, I
Yep.
I digress. Second on the police blotter list, let's get out of crazy America and let's go to the United Kingdom. Scotland Yard arrests 9 people, members of a body mutilation cult that were cutting off their testicles and penises on video for paying audiences.
Okay.
That will be in the show notes. And finally, this is the one, and this is the piece de resistance, because I have done this job, and so I am giving a shout out to my man at the Mons Venus in Tampa, Florida. Mons Venus is a well-known strip club chain, and a bouncer stopped a potential patron wearing a devil mask and all this crazy shit written on his body, tried to walk into the Mons Venus, and the bouncer with 30 years experience attacked him and disarmed him and took a gun from him and stopped the mass shooting in the Mons Venus in Tampa, Florida. And for my to my brother from another mother down there in Tampa, this one's going to be for you tonight. So that wraps up episode 295 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any more stories or pictures or links, please go to our website at John1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and protecting your local strip clubs. Everybody, have a good day.
Have a good night, everybody.